My name is Kris Rampersad. I'm a writer. I am involved in NGOs. I do a lot of community work. My PhD is in literature. My involvement in research and interrogation of Caribbean culture, which really is an amalgamation of cultures from Europe, yes, because we've inherited European institutions and language, but also we have cultures from Africa, from India, from China, from Latin America. So we're an amalgam of that. And I started off doing research on Indians in Trinidad. And what I found, when you look at the way the society has evolved, you cannot take one group in isolation. And in fact, recently I've found myself digging deeper and deeper, going back not just into the indigenous cultures, because when the Europeans came, there was a very active, proactive indigenous community that was pretty much engaged with South America and other indigenous communities across the Caribbean and across South America. So I found myself even going back that much further, and even further before that, the natural history and development. Now it's really very difficult for us to talk in terms of one race or the other. There's so much that has happened in the evolution of the society. It's almost impossible to escape this mixture, what we call multiculturalism, and the integration of the various cultures in Trinidad. There are people who identify in the region, and I think maybe all of us, with several cultures at one time. Even though I do not have European blood in me, I know that I'm a product of a European system. I speak English. When it comes to Caribbean culture, that we are not one people, even though we might our bloodline might be directly linked to one particular culture. In our way of life, in our habits, in our beliefs, we have amalgamated a whole lot of many other cultures. I would give you a very personal experience, which I haven't spoken about ever. Okay, I grew up in a very, what you would call Indo-Trinidadian community and home. But I think maybe it was because of academic interest and all of that. I've been just interested in every other culture. So he came and he interviewed my mom. She calls me up and says, because she thinks I'm the researcher in the family, Kris, somebody's here, and he's asking all these very strange questions. So he did this trace, and we found some 500 people in Trinidad and Tobago to whom we were linked and related. And then we had this big family reunion as well. So there is so much still to explore in this relationship, even so many generations later. Some of which are very obvious, and some of which that are not. Because of my interest in comparative cultures, I thought there is a festival in Trinidad that has been growing in interest and that we hold up. And I particularly think it's quintessentially representative of what we are as a diverse society. Church in South Trinidad, where initially indigenous peoples worship, because apparently this figurine was found in South America. It was brought to this church. Indigenous, because she was of darker complexion, indigenous people identified with it. The African slaves who subsequently came also identified and started worshiping at the church. And Indian populations also started worshiping at this church. I think very much that quintessentially represents the kind of amalgamation that has taken place in the region, and the kind of underlying fabric that strengthens the society when you share those kinds of practices that